What three people? Okay, so I would invite a chap called Kevin Slavin, who's the CEO of a particularly fantastic agency called Area Code, based in New York, who just got a long history of creating really engaging formats out of new technologies. So they kind of specialise. They were originally a TV company that moved into the games world, thinking that gaming would kind of destroy the world of television. Actually, what they've become is a games company that essentially now is a fantastic marketing channel for TV shows. So they're actually creating properties, advertising properties that become bigger than the properties they're advertising. There's something for Discovery Shark Week, for example, that more people play the game than actually watch the TV shows and things. But they're really, really good at translating a technology into a usable consumer format. Second, I'd probably invite Mary Meeker of Climate Partners, just because the money followed her. So she's had a fantastic career of essentially being a kind of evangelist for a new technology or a new way of doing things. She did it with the web in the late 90s. She's doing it with mobile today. If you could get her on board for 3D, then an awful lot of investment money would follow here. And I think there's an awful lot of opportunity for strategic investment in new technologies and just creating some kind of amazing kind of new wow factor. And thirdly, I'd invite my friend Indy Sahar, who's the Digital Strategy Director at b.TWEEN, who are one of the cleverest London agencies, who can take a really interesting perspective on what it means probably from a more local kind of basis for how kind of the UK consumer would interact with these technologies and how a brand can take use of those kind of things. But because I think it's essentially the creative and financial opportunity around 3D and immersive technologies. So there's this the core issue of me is what's it for? What can it allow us to do? Which is very, very hard to theorise about. You can extrapolate in a linear sense and from what we currently got. But the fact is, it's only through just kind of the new formats and the new kinds of content that 3D will enable. A good analogy actually is with snooker. So when colour TV came around in the early 70s, snooker was a dead-end sport that was never televised. There's no need to do it, but actually they had a symbiotic relationship in a sense that snooker showed off colour really well, especially when the colour technology wasn't that great. The colours were very, very, very bright. It was quite a low-cost format to broadcast. So actually then became one of the biggest sports in the country very, very quickly. So if you can find a sport that's kind of akin to snooker in that kind of sense for 3D, my personal idea was skydiving. So you can actually make skydiving a broadcast sport that actually works an awful lot better in 3D. You don't get the sense of motion and space on a two-dimensional screen, but actually suddenly you have, Red Bull would do this kind of thing brilliantly. Having skydiving as a kind of as a big sport and a big championship that, say, a brand would power to become a far bigger thing. So yeah, my name is Jean-Paul Edwards. I'm the Executive Director of Futures at OMD, and my job essentially is to understand the benefit or potential benefit of new technology for advertisers. So we track new technologies, what's possible, how much they cost, how consumers are using them, and then what they can do creatively to get a brand's message across. So and the way we do that is by doing lab trials, just looking at kind of new ideas and mocking these kind of things up, and then actually kind of going out and doing field trials, such as the campaign we did for JLS in November 2009, where it was one of the first UK 3D TV adverts that was broadcast on Channel 4, and then measuring the effects of that kind of activity. It can go in all sorts of different directions, I guess. I suppose what we can do is, you can extrapolate from Moore's law that the computing processing power will get faster and faster. We'll just start to get ever richer 3D experiences. So what is currently a sense of depth on a two-dimensional screen will then become just a more immersive environment. And ultimately, in the very long-term future, something that's pretty indistinguishable from reality. There's a whole internet meme, for example, about video games consoles being retirement homes. So you and I may retire into a games console, literally that kind of last 5 years of your life when there's not much fun going on, actually just live in a virtual reality world. And that can be something that's huge amounts of money that's kind of going on there. So that's an extreme future, but in the short term, I think it's just going to be the adoption of immersive technologies and immersive experiences, and something that's, I say, it's the creative challenge that we need to come back to how it can tell that story in a better kind of way, and I'm probably not the best person to make that judgment. say, there's not a huge number, really, I suppose, especially things that kind of scale up, really. So there's a number of things that we've done for the likes of Sony and some interesting things we've done in digital projection mapping. So these things are kind of quite scalable. So some stuff that we've done for the likes of Nissan and for Virgin, where you can essentially project amazing sequences of imagery onto three-dimensional surfaces that just, totally morph our experience of that kind of surface or that building or something. I think they're some of the best things that are going on. My particular favourite was one from by a company called the Macula, which is on the 600th anniversary of the Prague astronomical clock. It's a 10-minute video that I've watched dozens of times and shown loads of people, and I still really enjoy it. It illustrates the history of this clock through a digitally projected mapping of this clock kind of falling down and building up, and kings and queens fighting over it, and what it's done for astronomy and science and art and culture. It tells a story in a way that a traditional two-dimensional film or a screen-based media just couldn't do.